Welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to link to some of the elements here within the DOM, and then we're going to make use of those linkages and build out some content here and also create some interaction. So the first thing that we also need to do is we need to create some type of way to start the game. So this is where I'm going to add in another div here. I'm going to give it an ID of start, and this is going to be where we're going to start the game. So what I wanted to do initially, let's have this one show, and then once we're ready to start the game, then we're going to hide this one. So basically, the output here is just going to say start. And what I want to do now is I want to link it to a click event whenever that event gets clicked, or whenever that particular element gets clicked, then we want to run a function which is actually going to start the game. So let's build out those functions. So we can get rid of this part here where we're consoling, logging out the information, and let's put all of our functions down here below. So those are going to be the functions that we need in order to run our game. So this function is going to be start game. So whenever basically we're ready to start the game, let's put an event listener on the start button, and then once it gets clicked, then let's start the game. So the first thing that we need to do is grab that event, that element object, and place it into a container. So I'm going to just create one called start button. And this is where we're going to hold the contents of our start button. We're going to use document get element by ID in order to grab that element information. So that's get element by ID. Remember to camel case that to capitalize it, and our element is called start. So now we've got that particular element, we've grabbed that, and now let's add our event listeners. So these are event listeners where we're going to have all of our event listeners ready to go. And this one, so we're going to use start button, so that's that object. Grabbing that in, and we're going to add event listener. So add event listener, and the event listener that we're going to listen for is a click. So whenever it gets clicked, then we're going to run a function that we want it to hide this particular element. Or actually, let's just run this one where we're going to run start game. And that's how we've connected it together. And now let's just do one more down here at start game, just to make sure that we've got everything running properly. And we'll console log something out here where we're going to say console log started. And then also, we're going to have to also hide that button. So let's go back out to our page, refresh the page. We've got our start, and let's see what's showing up within the console. So we've got started showing up. And we can see that as I click start, so I'm going to move this one now over to the left-hand side, and we can see that as I click start, it does fire off that event. So everything is hooked up and ready to go to have the rest of our application. So let's go back into the editor. So now we've got this function firing off every time we set the game. So the next thing that we want it to do, so this is where we're starting the game from. The next thing that we want it to do is we want to set up our game. So we need to build out our board. We need to flip the cards. So a number of different things that we need to do. But for now, let's just set one up where we're actually going to hide this element. So we've got the start button, we've picked that up, and let's add some styling to it. And the styling that we're going to be adding in is to hide that button. So we can do start button, and we've already gotten that element, so we can do style. So we're going to apply some styling to it, and we're going to do display. And just like if you were doing it with CSS, we can hide that entire display area. So let's refresh that, and now when we click it, it disappears and it fires off, and we're ready to start the game. So that basically means whenever we want to restart the game, then we can go back and we can actually display this as a block. We can change the styling again, display it as a block, so that the user once again has a start button and they can start the game. So what I want you to do now, open up your editor and practice grabbing those elements from your application and then connecting them within your JavaScript. So add an event listener to create an element, call it start. Do the get element by ID, grab that start element, add an event listener to that, and then connect a function to that. And you can also add the styling in as well to make it disappear as it gets clicked. So in the next lesson, we're going to show you how we can build out our game board dynamically, and that's coming up.